back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Gountanis, author of the Landscadron Mystery Series, debuting next week, November 2020. I release a lot of writing and publishing related content on my channel, so make sure you subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. Okay, in today's video, I decided to do a Vellum tutorial. And for those of you that don't know what Vellum is, basically it's a formatting software for Mac users that allows you to format both ebooks and paperbacks. It's a really cool software, and I think it really helps indie authors out there, or those of you that are thinking of potentially going the indie route. Now, as of the time of this video, currently on the Vellum website, it's $199 for unlimited formatting of ebooks and $249 for unlimited formatting of both ebooks and paperbacks. So for the purposes of this tutorial, I am going to show you how to format both ebooks and paperbacks. And if any of you are on the fence of which Vellum version to purchase or perhaps to try out, I would recommend you try out or purchase the Vellum version for ebooks and paperbacks, because kind of like I've been talking about in many videos on my channel, if you are treating this as a business, it is best to have different formats for your work. So ebooks, paperbacks, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's get started here. And the way you do this in Vellum, you open up Vellum, and the first thing you'll notice is all your prior projects that you've been working on. So here I have been working on my books for the Landscadron series and also my reader magnet, so that's what's populated here on the right. So if you started a project and you want to go back into it, when you open up Vellum, you can just click on that project and it would take you right there. But here we're going to start completely from scratch. So the way you do that is you click Import Word File, and you locate the Word file on your computer. So here I'm going to import the sample Word file. And right away, Vellum pops up. Now, there are 3 different panes here to take note of. So here on your left, this pane here is your contents as well as your styles, and we'll get into that later in the video. Here in the middle is your text editor, and here on the right is the previewer. So let's start all the way here on the left. And for your contents and styles pane, basically this is where you can add copyright pages, title pages, dedication pages, and so on and so forth. And then for your styles, you can actually alter the different fonts and look of your particular ebook and your paperback. So here, as you can see, I have uploaded a Word document. It's a sample Word document. It just has 2 chapters in it with a bunch of words that are repeating. But you can see right away that the minute I imported it, there is a chapter 1 and a chapter 2. My text editor is filled with whatever happened to be in my Word document, and my previewer allows me to see what would my novel look like on various devices. So if we want to add different elements to this contents of our novel, what we do here is in our leftmost pane here, we go all the way down to the gear icon with the arrow. We click it, and then you go to Add Element. So anything that you want to add that is not a chapter is considered an element. If you want to add a chapter, then you would actually go to Add a Chapter. Now, here we want to just play around with it a little bit. Let's add a copyright page, and as you can see, it automatically populated that here on the left pane. And let's also add a About the Author page. which also populated here. So if we go all the way up and click Sample Novel, this is where we can adjust what our title page would look like. So here, it's our sample novel. I'm going to adjust my author name here, Greg Gountanis, language English, and let's go to the title page. Now, the title page is going to be the very first thing that readers see right after your cover. So whether it's an ebook or whether it's a paperback, this is the next thing that a prospective reader will see. So as you can see on our previewer, sample novel, Greg Gountanis is already there, but we also can add a publisher. So if you have your own imprint, this is a great place to add your imprint name, the website, and a logo if you have it. So let's just play around with it and put that it's published by the amazing publisher at www.amazingpublisher.com. And I don't have a logo, obviously, for this example, but as you can see, our title page has already populated here. Now, if we go down further in our contents pane, you have the copyright page that we added. You have the option of having it say created with Vellum or not. I usually take that out, but this is also a very standard page, whether it's ebook or paperback, to let people know that this work is copyrighted and not to try and mess with your work, so to speak. So this is sort of the default verbiage that Vellum has for the copyright page. You could, of course, add additional things if you have ISBN numbers and you want to add them here, below the copyright, you can do that. Or if you want to add the name of your publisher and your website, you can do that, and so on and so forth. And next thing you'll notice is the table of contents is automatically populated. So we added these elements, and the table of contents is populated with our 2 chapters of our manuscript, of our Word document, as well as the About the Author page. Now, the title page and the copyright page, those do not go in the table of contents. Those are sort of the preliminary matters that I guess are not counted or do not qualify as table of contents, but the rest of it, acknowledgments pages, about the author pages, if you have a dedication page, this would all be in the table of contents. So that's what you'll notice here. So you don't have to do anything with the table of contents whenever you're formatting. For a paperback, you will not have a table of contents. So just to be clear, this table of contents really only applies for ebooks. Now, let's go to our sample chapters here that we've uploaded. So it's 2 chapters. It's all talking about the same thing. It's just one sentence that I've repeated here for purposes of formatting. Now, technically, Vellum, while it is a formatting software, you can also, if you choose, edit text within Vellum. So, for example, if you see a typo here in your previewer, say the first line or the first sentence has a typo in it, instead of going back to your Word document or going back to Scrivener or whatever other formatting software you use to write, you can edit straight in Vellum. Now, it's not recommended to write your whole manuscript in Vellum, but I think Vellum does serve the purpose quite well for little things to alter, little typos, little adjustments that you need to make here and there. So let's just, for the sake of argument here, say that we had a bunch of typos here at the beginning. We can, of course, take that out, make it the way we want it, or if we want additional spaces, we can do that. And as you can see in our previewer, everything has been updated perfectly. Now, a little note here on the previewer mode, you can view various options as far as like the devices go. So for example, if you click up here on the little gear or looks like a phone kind of icon here, you can change the device and see how would your book look on these various devices. So the default right now is a Kindle Fire, but we can alter that to a Kindle Paperwhite, and you can see it's already updating how our book would look. Or if you want to see how it would look on a simple touch, or Kobo, that's a option as well. And then of course, if we want print, we can preview our novel in print. Now, just a little tidbit here about the previewer. When you click here on the A's, so if we go back to say our Paperwhite and we click on A, you can adjust the text size and the font for preview purposes. However, this is not going to generate the book file the way it's previewed. So this is merely if you want it to look bigger while you're editing it, while you're playing around with it, you can mess with the different formats, the different fonts, and the different font sizes, but just to, so you're aware that it's not going to generate the file like that. That's in a different portion of Vellum. So we have our 2 chapters here. We have our About the Author page, which it already added something about the author. Of course, you can type whatever you want to type here, and it's going to populate in the previewer. Then one of the cool things is for the About the Author page, for example, you can add Facebook links, Twitter links, Instagram. If you click down here, you can add YouTube, Snapchat, a whole bunch of other platforms. And for your print edition, you can actually have it show icons plus links, which is cool. So you would put your web address, and as you can see, it already updated with the link, with the icon, and then if we were to preview in print, it would have the icon and the actual address, the actual link. So that's pretty cool there. So those are the basic parameters of Vellum. Now, one thing that you can do, and this is, I think, what separates Vellum from, say, some other, formatting options that are out there, is that you can really play around with styling of your manuscript. So here on the left side, we talked about the contents. Now, if we click on styles, this is where you can adjust the way your manuscript is going to look in ebook as well as paperback. So the first thing you'll see is book style. This is going to be the overall style that is going to govern your whole manuscript, page 1 all the way to the end. So as you can see here, Vellum has a bunch of different styles for a manuscript. They have trace, artisanal, kindred, pseudo, Oxford. And just so we can really get a sense of it, let's go all the way to one of our chapters here. Parcel, chroma, meridian, and we're back to trace. So as you can see, with each different style that we're toggling, the previewer is updating, showing you how it would look. And this is a great opportunity for you as a writer to really hone in on some style choices that would benefit your genre. So maybe you write mysteries like I do, and you don't want something flowery like this, something like in cursive or something that would emote a different genre or sort of hint at a different genre. Maybe something like this would go more for fantasy or YA, perhaps. But maybe if you write mysteries, maybe you want something like trace. I happen to like the trace style. I've used it to format my first 2 Lance Gedrin books, which are going to be coming out next week. But bottom line, you want to pick a style that really gels with your genre. So take some time, play around with it, and find the best style for you. So once you've picked the style, then you have some other options here that are also going to be very important to the aesthetic of your manuscript. So the first option here is the heading. And this is your chapter heading all the way at the top. So how is each chapter going to be labeled? Is it just going to have a number? Is it going to have the chapter spelled out but without the word chapter in it? Or is it going to have chapter and the number spelled out? So once again, personal preference. For me, the way I formatted my Gedron books, I just like the plain number. I just kind of like that style, but obviously everybody should go with what they like and what works for them. Now let's go to first paragraph. And this is where you get to pick how the very beginning of your paragraph will look for each chapter. Do you want that first letter to be very big? Or maybe a little smaller? Do you want it just to be caps with no, giant first letter? Do you want it not to have caps at all? Or maybe some caps at the beginning and the rest lowercase? Or do you, really just want it to stand out with that one letter? So I'm going to leave it here for the first paragraph. I tend to like that first letter to have, some emphasis. I think it looks cool and it kind of has a more polished and sleek look about it. So I'm going to leave it that way. Now the other option here, the other thing to look at is the paragraph after a break. So if you are starting a new scene in your novel within the same chapter, you get to pick how you want that break to look. Do you want a little small line? Do you want a maybe less of a small line? Do you want usually here it'll give you some more options, but for this one, this one is actually the paragraph after a break where you can have just a line. Now, if you want an icon, it's what they call an ornamental break. So paragraph after break and or an ornamental break are essentially the same thing, but ornamental break allows you to kind of have a different design to delineate a different scene within your chapter. So you have, various options here. And of course, let's look here at our previewer, and you can see it's altering the composition of how our break would look. And you can, if you would like, add a custom image. So if you have created a custom image for your break and you really want to include it, then that would be the place to do it. You would add it here in custom image, upload it, and then your previewer would be updated accordingly. So for this one, I am going to leave just a small line here. That's the way I have updated, my files in my first two Gedron books. But play around with it. Now the next thing you will notice is there are various other elements that are not highlighted here. So block quotation, verse, photograph, portrait, and caption. Now the reason these are not highlighted is because Vellum has recognized that your Word document, your manuscript, does not have these elements, so it's not going to adjust your actual file. So here I uploaded just 2 chapters in this sample manuscript. I don't have any block quotations, I don't have verses, I don't have photos, portraits, or captions, so it does not apply to my manuscript. If it applies to your manuscript, then this would all be highlighted, just like these other ones that we worked on, and then you can toggle around with the various settings, and your previewer would be updated accordingly. But here, they're not an option, so we just proceed to the last 2 options that we have for our manuscript, and that's header and footer and body. So header and footer is how is your print version going to look? And there are various ways that you can modify it. So perhaps you want the author name at the top and the title on the next page with the page numbers at the bottom. Or maybe you want title and chapter at the top with the pages at the top. Or numbers at the top with title and chapter sort of justified left or right. Page numbers just at the bottom, in the corners, and so on and so forth. So for me, I like this style with the author name centered and the number centered, as well as the title centered and the number centered. But, to each their own. You can play around with it and see what you like. And then as you can see here in our print previewer, author names at the top, title at the top, page numbers at the bottom. And then finally, body. This is where you get to adjust the font of your actual print edition and where you can adjust the spacing or the indentation. I usually just leave it at the default indentation when you're starting a new paragraph. That's the standard. But you can play around with the font if you like. There's Fanwood, Iowan style, Koshin, Palatino, and so on and so forth. So for this, I'm going to keep it at Fanwood. I like that style. I think it looks pretty cool. So that is basically the rundown of this left pane, your contents and your style. Now, if you want to add a chapter to your manuscript, an additional chapter, then you can just go all the way down here, click the plus sign, and then you have a chapter. And you can actually type in here, and it would be updated accordingly with our prior settings here, our big letter, our paragraphs, and so on and so forth. So once again, that is more a matter of personal preference. Every writer has their own way of actually writing. Some people just prefer pen and paper. Some people use Scrivener. Some people use Word. Do whatever works best for you. If you actually want to write and format in Vellum, you can. I just find that Vellum is kind of better suited and more efficient just for formatting once you have the manuscript complete. So that's how the left pane works. Then here in the editor, if you click up here, you can add additional elements like store links. If you have like an Amazon link or something to some of your text, if you want to make some of your text aligned or not aligned or whatever you want, or verse, this is where you can add it. Here you can bold, italicize, underline, mess with caps, strike throughs, and then here you can add images on this little gear, and you can just play around with it and you can toggle. So, and then if you click all the way here where it says your word count for this particular chapter, it'll tell you how many words are in the book, how many words are in the body, how many words are in this specific chapter, and how many are in this chapter compared to the whole book as a whole. So those are just some little nuances that you can do. And then obviously the previewer, like we spoke about, you can mess around with it, different looks that you like. And then here all the way on the right, you can go back using the icons here or the actual icons in the middle of the document. You can click here and jump to various portions of your manuscript, or you can forward this way as well. Now, once you are done formatting, and just as a side note, you can also add a cover. So here, where if we go back to our contents and click on our title info, we can actually upload a cover. So let's just upload a cover for the purposes of this video. So this is the cover that I had for my reader magnet. which was the prequel short story to the Lanskedron series. And now if we look here at our previewer, we go back to the Kindle Fire version, we now have our cover. Now just a note on this, you cannot add a cover to the paperback version in Vellum. So whenever you preview your finalized paperback file, it's not going to have a cover. You would end up putting the cover image separate whenever you upload to whatever platform you're using. So if you're publishing on Amazon's KDP, then you would upload the print file that is generated from Vellum, and then you would separately upload the file that is generated from your cover designer or whoever designed your cover, the press ready file. So it'd be two separate uploads there. So now you're all done formatting. How do you actually generate the files? Well, it's really easy in Vellum. All you do is you go all the way to generate. And it's going to ask if you want to save first. Of course, we want to save our work, so yes. And then it's going to have a location where you would like to save. Purposes of this, I'll just save right to the desktop. And it is going to generate for ebook and print. So we click generate. And as you can see, it quickly generated for various formats. Now let's go look at those actual files. So if we open up our folder with the formatted files, you can see that Vellum generated for Apple, Google Play, Kindle, Kobo, Nook, and Print. And you have the individual files in each folder. And let's just look at the print one and see how the print one came up. So here, as you can see, it generated a PDF of our print file. We have our title by the amazing publisher. We have our copyright page. And then we have our chapters with our big letters, the way we formatted it, with our page number at the bottom, the author name at the top. We have our break with this line. Same thing on the second chapter. Title of the novel at the top, page number at the bottom. And then at the very end, we have our About the Author page with our actual link. So obviously, when you upload your manuscript, there's going to be a lot more pages and a lot more elements, but it's very simple to use, very simple to play around with to get the aesthetic that you need. And that's basically how to use Vellum to format an ebook and paperback. So if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments for scribblers out there, leave them down below. And if you've been on this formatting journey or you're about to format your novel or something like that, hit me up in the comments. I really like hearing from all the writers out there, no matter where you guys are on your writing journey. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do. It's a way for YouTube to see if my content is resonating with other writers out there. So I'll see all of you in the next video. And until next time, keep scribbling.